O Great Spirit, saints, sages of all times, of all places, O ye path makers of old, ancestors of our bloodlines, of our adopted lines, of our spiritual lines, of our friendship lines, of our marriage lines. Most beloved and precious Ishtadevata, in all of thy names and all of thy forms, and in thy great, formless, all-pervading state of being. All ye beings of the air, the earth, fire, water, ether, all of ye helpers in all realms of existence. Namaste. Most beloved and precious Ishta, sweep clear the path. Sweep clear the path that we might hear that which needs to be heard, that we might see that which needs to be seen, that the karmas of the past, the karmas of the present, the karmas of the future be softened and neutralized and transformed into that which is for the highest good. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Use a sipping breath and pull the energy from the limbs to the trunk, inhaling as if through a straw. From the trunk to the spinal column. From the base to the sun center. Move that energy out in front of you as a golden ball of light. Expand it so it becomes a sheet. And sweep around the body counterclockwise 3 times. Expanding that golden light until you are comfortably seated in a protective ball of light. And now ascend upward above the room, above the building, above the city, above the continent. Ascend above the earth plane. Ascend to the highest place. And find yourself comfortably seated in your meditation place. Begin to watch the breath. Allow the breath to flow inward and outward with no resistance. Holding that state of peacefulness. Let the peace flow through you. Let the Anandic bliss flow through you as we share this time. Namaste. Once upon a time, in the ever-present now, a little girl, young girl, named Francie, had a granny whom she loved very much. She slept with Granny when she visited. She baked with Granny. She followed Granny every place. She didn't want to be with anybody but Granny. One day, she was walking in Granny's garden, and a snake appeared. And she screamed, "Ah, Granny, 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 there's a snake!" Ran. Grabbed hold of Granny's legs. "Don't worry, honey." Now, Granny was a farm woman, so she took the hoe and sent the snake to its next incarnation. Perhaps there was a gentler way to do it, but that's not how Granny did it. But Francie, from that moment on, thought that Granny was the strongest, bravest woman she'd ever seen. Ever. Years go by. Granny transitions. She dies. She leaves the earth plane. More years go by. And Granny's children and their children are all seated around multiple big tables. And the children start to talk. These are Francie's aunts and uncles. The youngest one says, Mom was so good, but she was so afraid of everything. Francie, who are they talking about? She looks at her cousin Bobby, and he's like, who are they talking about? She looks down the table at Davy. He's like, who are they talking about? The oldest son says, oh yeah, Mom, she sure was afraid of everything. She was afraid of the thunder. She was afraid of the tornado. She worried constantly. And all the grandchildren. Oh, Francie was confused. And she said, excuse me, who are you talking about? And her Aunt Margie looks up and says, well, your grandmother, of course. We're talking about our mother. Can't you tell? She says, no, that's not who I know. She turns to her two boy cousins and they said, that's not who we know. I said, Granny was the bravest woman I ever met. Francie says. Davy says, Granny was the bravest woman I ever met. Bobby says, Granny was the bravest woman I ever met. And all of Granny's children sat back. Really? 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 Yeah. Which soul was it? Who was it? To the grandchildren, she was brave. To the grandchildren, she protected them. She taught them. She did everything that she could to make their lives comfortable. To her children, they saw the part of her personality that some fear might have worried or worry might have come up. Who was the real Frances? Was her name. You and I, we live in a lila. The Sanskrit word is lila, and it means play. In English, it means play. You have, as she had, many masks that we put on. You look at me, you see one thing. I'm not sure what you see, but you see one thing. I look at you, I see one, maybe two things. I see Pranananda with us today. What do I see? A musician, father, a husband, disciple. I don't know. Which of those is real? I look out at each of you, and it's still no different. You walk down the street and with a group of children and you say, oh, who lives there? Oh yeah, that's Mrs. F. That's Mrs. Fish. Oh, no. That's Miss Jessica that lives there. She's the mother of Chloe. She's the mother of Graydon. No. She's my teacher. No, she's the wife of this one. Who is she? She's my friend. Each of us lives in a world where we see only a petite part of the other, only a small part. And we label that part. And, you think that you work with someone and you think, well, I know them. That's Joe. He works over there, Or I know Joe. He is Lieutenant Colonel. No. That's Grandpapa Joe. Who is Joe? Is he your neighbor? Is he the light colonel? Or is he Grandpapa? Each of these is a filter. Each of these is a filter through which we perceive someone, but more importantly, each of it is a filter of karma. Each of it is a filter through which your karma is filtered, is the best way to say it, through which a prism, through which your karma moves, through which your karma is filtered. Now, yogically, we have to say, which one of these filters are we reinforcing? Years ago, I was worked with a man who had been very high in an organization and ended his last 6 or 7 years as the president of the company. He wasn't the highest. There was a chairman of the board, but he was the president. And for whatever his personal reasons were, he chose to retire. And about 3 months after he retired, I ran into him and asked how he was doing. And he said, you know, all those years I thought I was the president. And I chose to retire. And the next thing you know, I'm standing in the grocery line looking at the rags, you know, the gossip magazines, waiting in line with every other person. Nobody's doing a thing that I tell them to do. He said, it's been quite an adjustment. Now, well, it took him a while to adjust to that. I think that he ultimately was able to adjust to it, but he had spent so many years in this one role that he began to think that it was the reality. You know, a woman whose children leave home and she says, my job is over. My job is over. Wait a minute. I thought you were an artist. I thought this being a mother was just something that you were doing because that was a time gate. But all the way through this, you were an artist. You were an artist. You were a creative person. What happened? Did that end? No. But in the doing and the being of one role, we forget the other. And so you have to ask yourself, this is a Leela. This is a play that I am in. What is the part that I am allowing to be dominant today? And recognize that you're walking through time. You're walking through a time gate. Somebody asked me what a time gate is. Well, it's very simple. It's a period of time through which karma flows. The karma for you to be a college student. Maybe that time gate is 4 years, maybe it's 10 years. If you're going to be a medical doctor, maybe it's 15 years. But it's a period of time through which a certain type of karma flows into your life. And then, my beloved, it stops. It ends, it closes, if you will. Now it will open again. There's no question. In the course of your incarnations, it will open again. You will have chance to have it manifest again and again and again. But what you can do at 15, you could not do at 7. What you can do at 25, you could not do at 15. What you can do at 45, you could not do at 35. What you can do at 65, you could not do at 25. What you can see, you could not see then. It's much easier to see after you've gone along or you've gone up the mountain than it is when you're right here. And so what does it mean? How do I free myself then? How do I free myself? How do you free yourself from the karma of the present moment? You have a problem that has arisen in your life and you don't know how to solve that problem. The first thing is stop being so emotional about it. No problem is new. No problem is new. Every single problem that you have, somebody else has had and solved it. You don't have to do it alone. There are those who will help you in all realms. Those who will help you. You simply have to be willing to ask. Now, that's a piece of karma in and of it. To be willing to know what to ask, who to ask, how to ask. Too often we're filled with this sense, particularly if you're living in America, the sense of you have to do it yourself, you have to do it yourself, you have to do it yourself. Or that somehow in asking for help, it is you're humiliating, you're You're humbling yourself to ask from another. It's your ego. Decide. Be willing to help where it comes from. Be willing to accept the help. Others may come to you through the strangest sources, but be willing to accept however it comes. Sweep clear the obstacles in your path. Now, one of the big obstacles we have as humans, one of the biggest obstacles we have in life, really is this idea that I've made up my mind about something and I cannot change. My way is right. This thought is the only correct thought. Do you know how many billions of thoughts there are within this realm of time? Waiting for you to bump up again, waiting for you to find the thought that is most relative to you at this time? Oh, a lot, a lot, a lot. No new thoughts, no old thoughts, just thoughts. Thoughts that are relative to you or not relative to you. But how do you become relative to this rather than this little pookie dough that you can hardly see through? And what's in here? What stops you? You know, it's like that wonderful yogic saying, the thumb can blind the sun. You know, I stick my thumb, close one eye, stick my thumb close enough to this eye, I can't see a thing. It's your biases, it's your prejudices, it's your preferences. What do you prefer? What are your biases? What are your prejudices? And really, even more so, with those biases and prejudices, probably the greatest one of all, the greatest obstacle in terms of biases and prejudices is your ego self. It is the idea of who and what you are. Just an idea, it's just a thought of who and what you are. It's not real, it has no reality. You know, you can think you're a 16-year-old, 25-year-old when you're 80, and it's not the reality for the present moment. But your biases and prejudices, which really are, if we talk astrologically, for those of you that know the science, it's your ascendant. It's the way that you look at the world, a way that filters everything that you look at the world. And it is the filter through which you discard solutions, you discard opportunities, you discard potential. And you say, nope, it has to be like this. If it's not like this, it's not possible. Or this is the only solution. I remember talking to a very, very well-educated person a number of decades ago, and somebody I have the highest respect for. We were talking about world philosophies, mysticism and non-mysticism. Those things that are mystical and those things that are not. And he postulated some principles that he held. And he said the same thing over and over and over and over again. Every time I saw him, we'd get in this discussion. Every time I saw him, he'd try to make the same point. And I finally said one day, have you ever studied the other side? Did you ever study any of these things we're talking about? Have you ever studied any thought? Have you ever studied any thought of Jainism or Buddhism or Islam or Sufi or Tao? Ever study any of that? Any of it? Did you ever study any Eastern thought at all? Did you pick up that was nothing other than Western thought? Nope. Nope. Made up my mind, I'm not going to change it. And I said, you know what? The conversation. We're not going to talk about this. I respect you, I admire you, but we're not going to talk more. Because for me, I got to study everything, got to meditate, got to reflect on it. What the possibilities are. I don't want an iron gate shut down on my horizon. Yet for me and for you, we shut down those iron gates whether we know it or not. We look at the other person and say, you know, wow, no, you can't help me. No, only this person can help me. And so in the yoga, to free ourselves, we first must begin this great process of tarka, the deep, deep reflection of who and what you are. Reflection of what you have glommed onto as your beliefs about the world that you live in. Now, if you haven't done it yet, to the World Wide Web, the great internet, and look at the recent photographs released this week by NASA from the Webb telescope and see taken pictures of that the mystics have known is there. Look at the magnificent birds that they have captured. And what they have captured is no bigger than a grain of sand. And allow yourself to say, oh, wow, I am a part of that. I want to know that. Not this, not this little, not this Quito horizon of awareness. And this requires humbling oneself, putting some of one's desires aside, putting some of one's ego thoughts of what is right and what is wrong aside, and saying, oh, I want to see. May not like it, but I want to see. It may not be where I want to live, but I want to see. I want to learn. Become a perpetual student. Always become a perpetual student. One, they tell you your name and you don't know how to pronounce it. And ask them to write it, say it again so that you hear. Ah, she said, oh, yeah, she said. When I was ordained Swami Jyoti Pranananda. Now, if you were 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, you could say Jyoti Pranananda with no problem. But the adults all used to say Jyoti, Jyoti. One day my guru said, we have to stop that. You're going to lose the bliss. And he stopped. He started calling me Pranananda. Don't ever lose that bliss. He'd say, don't ever lose that bliss. Now I found it interesting. Adults could say Pranananda or Jyoti, but very few adults could figure out how to say Jyoti Pranananda. You ask any little child, and they could say it with no problem. They could hear it because their ears had not yet been turned off. Become childlike. You want to ease your karma. Become curious like you were as a child. Learn languages. Befriend those who are different than you are. Those who think differently than you do. Befriend them. Every time you see a piece of ice in your consciousness, let it dissolve away. Dissolve it away through using the neti practice. Dissolve it away through sitting in the sunlight and allowing the sun to dissolve it. Sitting in the sunlight of your awareness. Seek wisdom. Seek wisdom from every corner that you can, from every encounter in your day, every person you meet. Seek wisdom. And then thus find understanding of this which we are a part of. Reflecting now upon your life in these next hours and days in front of us. As we approach the new moon in the next 10 days, you will have an opportunity for aha, I see, aha. Allow yourself in your reflection to see. Now, here's a trick, a mystical trick, all right? You speak to your consciousness and you say, well, I'm going to do something now. Now, here's the gig. You got to use your own words, not mine. I want to see everything. I'm willing to see everything. For this period of time, I ask you to set your biases and prejudices aside, mind, and just let me see. Now, if you've been practicing the observer self, if you've been practicing the watcher, if you've been practicing, really, it's the observer self, you've taken a part of your above your head or so. This moves your consciousness outside of the chakric system. Chakric system ends with the sun and the moon. Up by the 1,000-petal lotus, we're not in the chakric system. Great mysticism. You take part of your awareness and you're saying, this is above the influx of karma. And so everything I see up here, all I'm doing is observing. I'm simply watching the flow of the thoughts as they flow in, of the words as they flow out of the mouth, of the actions as the body takes them. But I'm observing. And thus by observing, it's neutral. It's neutralized. You're out of the chakric system. You're going to have a sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn experience associated with it. It's just, isn't that interesting? With no impetus to do anything, with no impetus to move. All right. That's very important. It's very important to cultivate that awareness. And, you'll hear it again and again and again. And, nigh on 40 years of doing that practice, and it still evolves and evolves and evolves and evolves. And it's still remarkably helpful. And so you have that observer practice, and you're going to do Tarka, and you're going to have this conversation with yourself and say, okay, during this period of Tarka, I want to see. And I'm willing to put down my biases, my prejudices, my preferences at this time. Now, don't say to yourself, I don't have any prejudices. I don't have this hogwash. Hogwash, we all do. I love the color. And I have trained myself to like all colors. I still have a preference for blue. I just do. It's just within me. But I have to say, yes, the green, the orange, the pink, the red, the gold, they're all good. They're all states of consciousness. I allow my mind to see those colors also. And I'm using the colors as an example for you of states of consciousness. You want to be able to see everything. And so as you do the Tarka, allow yourself to. Allow yourself to reflect upon your life. What's constricting your consciousness right now? All right, maybe I used a word I shouldn't have used. You might not like that word. I said, what's constricting your consciousness? What's framing your consciousness? What's filtering your consciousness? What have you done? How have you done it? You have said, I can't even see this. I don't even see. I can't, because I have set up something that is so strong a barrier. So strong a barrier that the thought forms will not move through that barrier. Think about that. Think about that. Within each of us is karma that we have self-created. Boundaries that we have self-created, in which we do not see certain parts of reality. You're in a leela, you're in a play. You think that your grandmother is the bravest person in the world. You think your mother is scared all the time. You think your father doesn't care for you because he's never home. You don't see that he's never home because he's working 3 jobs to make enough money to give you food to eat, to give you a place to stay, to give you clothes to wear. What is the reality of the life in which you have created for yourself? Allow yourself to see that. Allow yourself to see the roles that you have been playing and drop them softly, harmoniously. Change them softly, harmoniously. And, or begin to say, I see, here's the role of the professor, here's the role of the mother, here's the role of the chef, here's the role of the lover, the wife, the husband, the mother, the father, the son, the daughter. Yeah. And if you want to see the reality of it, use your imagination a little bit, when my mother and father-in-law were still on the earth, my husband and his brother would walk into their parents' house. These 2 grown men who were absolutely, both of them, egalitarian. They cooked, they cleaned up after dinner. They were wonderful men when they were in Chicago. And they'd go to their mother's house in St. Paul and they'd say, hi, Mom, give her a big hug, eat her cookies. And you'd think they'd broken their legs. They didn't help with cleaning up. They didn't help with setting the table. They didn't help cook. Until somebody came along and said, hey guys, what happened? What happened? What happened? We leave Chicago. What happened to you? Oh. No, they'd start teasing and laughing and playing like they were boys again. But part of their consciousness simply turned off until somebody said, let's turn the switch on again. Give Mom a break. Mom wasn't the one who said it either. They didn't do it intentionally, but this is the great mysticism here. They were in a new place. So we not only have time that karma flows into, but place. And if there's anything I'm telling you today, I'm going to stop and ask you to please hold on to this Everything else, if I say forget everything else, remember time and place. This is one of the greatest mystical formulas. If you have a problem in a particular place, a physical problem, a health problem, if you can move from that place, if you can leave that place, and it's usually said that if you leave for 49 days, you can switch the karma, you can change the karma. Place is very important because there's karma that the door will open and you're in Chicago and the karma doesn't manifest. And you go to Kauai and the karma does manifest. You go to Florida, same time, and the karma manifests 3 times as difficult as it does when you're in Chicago. So it's a deep mystical truth. Ask yourself as you're doing your Tarka this week, what happens when I go to such and such a place? What happens to my personality? What happens to the events that come into my life, the people that come into my life, the thoughts that come into my life when I am in this place or this place or this place? So that you know, use it to your advantage. Free yourself. So what I have tried to say today, what I've really tried to say is that karma, which is all self-created, limits your horizon of awareness. And upon the spiritual path, you want to expand that horizon of awareness. And you need to do everything that you can to do that. I've also said, and tried to repeatedly say and show you, we are living in a play. And the part that you play in the play will vary from moment to moment, from day to day. You know, you're John's son, you're Joe's daughter, you're Claire's sister. You're Michael's teacher. You're Ginger's husband. What role is it that you're playing at this moment? You know, you can't carry that same role all the way through, you know. Can't be the boss when you go home. It's not very successful. You know, you see people in the military, they come home after, you know, being on active duty all day, and they try to act the same way in their home as they do on the base, and it doesn't work real well. You know, family doesn't like to say yes or yes ma'am. Doesn't work well. You need to find a sutra, a stream of consciousness. The stream of consciousness is understanding who you are, who yourself is, who you really are, so that through the entire play, oh yeah, I see. Oh, that's who it is. I see. That's Pranananda. Oh yeah, she looks like she's Connie's daughter. Oh yeah. No, she looks like his wife, his sister, her friend. No. Her guru, his guru. No. It's just the one essence of who and what you are. So find that, reflect deeply and find it. And as we move into our meditation today, you will have an opportunity to let go of these roles that you play, if you will. And I hope you will use it if you choose. But remember always, the roles are temporary, you know. They change, you change. Do not become too attached to what you think you are, to the role that you think you're playing. One day you're going to be like my friend Steve, and who was a president one day, and the next day standing in the line at the grocery store. What's real? It's both real. Who's Steve? Not the president and not the guy standing at the grocery store. Pranananda spoke a great truth, many great truths, but a great truth to me many decades ago. And he said, disciple, be careful of which briefcase you pick up. Be careful of which costume you put on, because you will draw people to you that are carrying those briefcases and wearing the same costumes. You need to be sure that you know what you're doing. Once you pick it up, it's hard to set it down. He was right, more right than I thought. Before you pick it up, know what you're doing. Life is wonderful. This beautiful place that we live is wonderful. It gives you have the opportunity for freedom, to free yourself from the confinement of the thoughts that limit your mind. Use it. And find joy and happiness in every one of your days. Find happiness, find joy, find ever greater joy. Always with each breath that you take. And now let us go into meditation together. Namaste. Closing your eyes and focusing your attention at the sun center. Returning your awareness to the high place. As you are in the high place, ascend upward. Ascend up the hill to the middle part of the mountain. And finding a comfortable place for you to sit. Sit and look out. Feel the sunlight shining down upon you. In front of you is your Ishta Devata, your chosen form of the divine. Your Ishta who is most intimate with you. See in front of you a large screen, as if you are looking at a three-dimensional screen. The light is pouring down upon you. And the screen becomes a stage. And upon that stage, you begin to see the Leela, the play of your life. The baby that entered the earth. The toddler learning to walk. The child learning to read. The young adolescent growing into the world. All of these beings appear in front of you. The teenager striving to be free. The young adult learning to live upon the earth. You see the young person setting out their own home, their own way of living in life, their work. All of these parts of yourself appear on the stage. As you walk through your life, you see the friend, the sibling, the co-worker, the partner, mother, father, daughter, son. All of the roles that you have played in your life appear on the stage. All of these beings appear. The stranger walking down the street that smiles at others. The stage is filled as you sit in the sunlight. All of these parts, all of these roles that you have played begin to line up in front of you, one behind another. The sun shines down brightly. As you watch, all of the parts you have played are lined up, one behind another. Inhaling through your nostrils, exhaling twice. Inhaling through the nostrils, exhaling. Inhaling, exhaling. All of these parts you see lined up, one behind the other. As you have inhaled and exhaled, they merge into the distance, becoming light, moving as far away as you can see them move. They become a dot. The parts have merged to become one. You see that light, that dot of light in the distance. Okay. So there is nothing. Inhaling through the nostrils and exhaling through the nostrils. You slowly see the dot, the bindu, coming toward you. It is light. No separation, simply light. Bring the dot forward. The light begins to grow larger and larger and larger. The light, the bindu, becomes a golden orb of light. It moves off of the stage dissolves away. Golden light comes closer and closer and closer to your sun center. You see the light reaching out to your sun center and realize it is the Om. All these parts have merged into the light of Om. The light comes close to your sun center. You draw it in until it is right above your spine. Softly muttering Om, the light dissolves, the golden light of Om dissolves down your spine. Pouring down your spine as golden dewdrops of Ananda, 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 pouring down through your spinal column, Ananda, Ananda, Ananda. Radiating out to the trunk of the body, to the limbs of the body. Ananda, Ananda, Ananda. Your entire being is filled with the light, unifying all of the parts into whole. Thou art that. Om Tat Sat Om. Aham Brahmasmi. Om, thou art that. Om. Thou art life, the unified life. Remember always the light. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Dhyanamulam Guru Murti. Pujamulam Guru Padam. Mantramulam Guru Vakyam. Mokshamulam Guru Kripa. Mokshamulam Guru Kripa. Hold on to this feeling state as you walk through the week. Return again and again and again to the light that thou art. Namaste. Namaste. Namaskar. Be blessed. Thou art blessed. Remember this always. Om Shanti.